Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming along. I would like to begin this presentation by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respect to their elders, past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. There are a couple of housekeeping matters that I would like to draw your attention to. Firstly, this event is being recorded. Second, all attendees will be muted when not speaking to ensure a clean listening experience for everyone. Following the presentation by our guest speakers, there will be time for a Q&A. So please remember to post your question in our chat box. It is now my pleasure to welcome our President, Miriam McLeod, to make a welcoming remark.
Thank you, Shanti. I'm delighted to be here to welcome you to our session on mentoring in Rotary. Shanti Deboo and her team have been introducing the amazing work of Rotary to those who may not be across it in very different and exciting ways over the last few months. They have showcased some of our amazing Rotarians throughout our period of COVID lockdown, and today is another fine example. I'd like to acknowledge our many members and colleagues joining us today, including our past global scholar, Katie Wilford, who is now an Iowa Rotarian. I'm pleased to also have the opportunity to wish you and your families and friends all the very best for the festive season, and to hope that we are indeed moving into a post-COVID and exciting year in 2021. I will now hand over the proceedings to our past president, Mary Barry, who will introduce our speakers. Thank you, Mary.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Marion, and thank you, Shanti. Marion said, my name is Mary Barry, and I've been a member of Rotary Melbourne since 2006. So our chat today is about mentoring, and particularly mentoring in Rotary and mentoring more generally. So before we start the discussion, I'm going to read out what we believe is a general overview of mentoring, so we can focus the whole session and the questions and the presentations around mentoring. So what is mentoring? Well, mentoring is the sharing and imparting of knowledge and insights from one person to another. It consists of three distinct parts. There's a mentor, a mentee, and a mentoring relationship. So what is a mentor? Well, a mentor can best be described as a trusted person who shares and passes on their own lived experience, knowledge, and wisdom to others. A mentee can best be described as a person who is eager to learn, be intellectually challenged, prepared to take risks, is willing to share their thoughts and feelings with their mentor, and seek creative solutions to key problems or challenges. And the whole success of mentoring revolves around a successful mentoring relationship. And that starts with trust, one of the most important aspects of mentoring. This is followed by clearly defined and agreed roles and responsibilities for the mentor and the mentee, establishing short and long-term goals, using open and supportive communication that includes active listening and reflection, and working collaboratively to solve issues or problems that will enable the mentee to develop their full potential. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dorothy Gilmore. We have 4 speakers today: Dorothy Gilmore, Robert Fisher, Austin Burley, and Carolyn Balla. So we'll start and introduce Dorothy. Dorothy joined Rotary Melbourne in 2016, and she's one of those people who very quickly got involved in many activities of the club's area. Dorothy is currently the weekly bulletin editor, chair of Rotary Safe Families programme, a member of the vocational service team, the Community Welfare Committee, and the Young Achievers Awards alumni. She is also a mentor in the New Mentors Mentoring Programme and has participated as a mentor in the Rotary Ambulance Victoria mentoring program. Dorothy has experience in professional academic history and social sciences, including human behaviours and challenges of specialised groups. She also is lecturing in trauma, loss, grief, mediation and suicide. And before I hand over to Dorothy, don't forget, if you have questions, to put them in the chat box and we will get to them at the end of the session. So over to you, Dorothy.
Thank you, Mary, and good morning, everyone. And I need to thank Mary for that very generous introduction. Yes, I have had the opportunity to take a role in many of Rotary Melbourne's wonderful projects. My virtual background today, you will see, highlights our Rotary Safe Families initiative. And Safe Families is all about stopping abuse in families everywhere. It is about Rotarians providing the powerful message we need to prevent abuse, to recognise the signs, to raise our concerns and refer for support a victim or possible victim of abuse. Yes, my professional practice of trauma, loss and grief therapy included years of lecturing at Swinburne University in educating psychology and family therapy students in the specifics of trauma, loss and grief counselling issues. And it was during these professional years I was often invited to mentor or supervise a PhD student, maybe an academic or a fellow therapist. Rotary Melbourne has provided me the opportunity to continue my enthusiasm for mentoring, and for this I am very grateful. Mentoring opportunities are not only available within Rotary Melbourne, but offered externally as part of Victoria Police and Ambulance Victoria personal development programs. So what does a mentor need to be able to work in these external programs? Most importantly, I need to be trusted by my mentee. A successful mentoring relationship, as Mary said, begins with trust, a sensitivity and a mutual respect. I'm expected to drive this relationship whilst accepting my own increasing responsibility for self-reflection and my own development. But what I haven't mentioned is the need for the mentor to be flexible, to be practical, and enter the mentoring relationship with a curiosity and adaptability. So how is this relevant to Victoria Police and Ambulance Victoria? For a start, the two mentoring programs are slightly different in format, and each mentee is a unique individual, as we all are, and they must be respected in their uniqueness. The second slide, please, Shanti.
Yes.
Okay, the Victoria Police Leaders Mentoring Program is available to senior police as an opportunity for them to work with the public by creating their own community project. This is aimed at both practicing leadership whilst engaging with marginalised community and helping to bridge that gap between community and the police, which is, I'm afraid, there in the public eye. This program has been a part of Victoria Police performance and development now for 13 years, and it is actually accoladed as one of their top programs in Victoria Police Development Program. Now, the Ambulance Victoria use their mentoring program. If you could change the slide, please, Shanti.
Yes.
So Ambulance Victoria use their mentoring program slightly differently. It's more as a means of a staff personal development within their organisation, and the candidates are judged on their improved, hopefully improved performance in management and leadership skills. The Rotarian mentors, well, we possibly require more business and management skills than the Victoria Police mentoring program, which is a bit more creative and adaptive. Both police and ambulance mentoring require, again, the trusting relationships, confidentiality, clearly defined and agreed roles and responsibilities for both the mentor and the mentee, and need to facilitate short and long-term goals. If we could have slide 4, please, Shanti.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to check out with you the following example of a Rotary mentor and his senior sergeant mentee. Now, they devised together a program to help local disadvantaged kids. Now, we haven't got the slide, but I'll read it out to you anyhow. So let's see what happened in this successful example of the Victoria Police program. It reads like this. A Victoria Police senior sergeant posed his Rotary mentor with a problem. And this, in fact, led to fantastic results. He was upset by the decline of the kids' soccer club in the Dandenong area due to parents being unable to afford the costs. The mentor showed him ways to access local council support for this. And this then led to some funding to purchase new balls and cover the kids' fees. But that's not all. This then led to increased involvement from the kids, parents joining Zumba fitness classes, siblings joining the homework club. The powerful Melbourne Victory Soccer Club came in with a pledge of 2 years jumpers, coaching and gear. The Football Federation agreed to halve the club's annual dues. And within a year, the Dandenong Club multiplied from 2 to 6 mixed teams. Over 100 youngsters are now signed up, with many of their families also involved in programs as well. That is a terrific story. And now the club brings smiles to the kids' faces, and they hope it will also make them see the police in a different light. So all round, this mentoring initiative has just roller coasted out and created so many positive opportunities for the children and their families in the Dandenong area. It's been a privilege to be part of Rotary Melbourne's mentoring, with the fantastic opportunity to work with police and ambulance. On a personal note, my 2 mentees have become friends for life. I was invited last year to spend 10 hours as an observer on a shift with Ambulance Victoria in a rural base, thanks to my mentee. A lifetime experience I will never forget, believe you me. And yes, these fantastic paramedics have even invited me back on the road. It seems that my dog handling skills, silencing 3 lively dogs as their owner was having a heart attack, was noted as commendable. Thank you for your interest in community mentoring, a wonderful way to meet amazing emergency support people in our community whilst making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dorothy, for that great overview of the mentoring programs and for your own involvement in those, which is obviously very inspiring to people who are looking to be mentors or mentees.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm now going to move on to our second speaker, which is Robert Fisher. Robert joined Rotary Melbourne in 2006. He served as president in 2018-19 and is currently involved in Rotary Melbourne international programs, the Arts Committee, Welfare of the Young, Around the Bay Smith Family Fundraiser, the R100 Pacific Programme, and the Membership Engagement and Membership Review Committees. Robert is also a mentor in the Rotary New Members Mentoring Programme and a professional mentor, providing mentoring to senior executives from a variety of different organisations. It's now over to you, Robert. Thank you. I have to unmute. That's better.
That's better. My apologies. Thank you, Mary, for that very kind introduction. I've been asked to talk about my background and about my connection with mentoring, both professionally and in a Rotary context. So Shanti, if you can move to the second slide, I'll talk a little bit about my career. I was brought up in a particularly beautiful part of the world, Scotland. You'll observe that we have 2 or 3 Celts on the call today. So we're very much involved in this part of the world one way and another. I spent 5 years in an international publishing company learning the ropes and was very much inspired by a cousin of mine who happened to live in Africa to try and explore a bit of the world. So I asked the MD to be sent to one of our overseas offices and was posted to South Africa for what was to be a period of 2 years and turned out to be more like 15. 10 years into my time there, I was running the company, which was a wonderful experience. And while there, I married and started a family. But it wasn't a place to bring up young kids. Johannesburg was part of the apartheid society of South Africa at the time. It was violent and there was lots of terrorism. So I managed to negotiate a transfer to manage the company in New Zealand for 3 years, and subsequently was transferred to Edinburgh and my original homeland. So we thought that we would spend the rest of our lives there, but that wasn't to be. I was offered a role by a different publishing company to run their Australia and New Zealand operations. And very quickly we fell in love with Melbourne and Australia. I did spend a couple of years in Sydney at one stage, but finally returned to Melbourne to head up Collins Booksellers Group. And Collins Booksellers is in no way connected with Collins Publishers, with whom I started. That's just a coincidence, a happy coincidence. Anyhow, 12 years ago, I stepped out of corporate life and wanted to develop a consulting portfolio. And a business colleague of mine introduced me to a global executive mentoring firm, believing that I might make a satisfactory mentor, working with senior executives in their personal and professional development. So I've been doing that very happily and enjoy the work enormously. The focus of mentoring in a commercial environment is on self-awareness, helping the individual to work out best options in particular circumstances, being a listening ear. We don't tell our clients how to run their business. That's up to them, but we do guide them to think about the actions that they are considering in a helpful kind of way. It's about reviewing the issues that they confront, issues of strategy, of operations, of politics, of people. And I've been very privileged to watch a number of leaders thrive with a greater degree of confidence. And I've enjoyed seeing senior managers rise through the ranks to their full potential. So mentoring is a very rewarding experience. Let's move to my Rotary story. Shanti, if you can bring up the final slide, number 4. I didn't know very much about Rotary until I was introduced to it about 14 years ago by a then neighbor. And my early observation was that I enjoyed being in the company of like-minded people. Our club in Melbourne is not typical. Most Rotary clubs have about 30 or 40 members. We have something in excess of 200. So we are nevertheless upholding the same set of values and ethical standards that will be found in Rotary anywhere in the world. We just do a little bit more than some of the smaller clubs, and there are greater opportunities, mentoring included. I particularly like that Rotary is what I call a bottom-up organization. We make decisions at our club level, and then if we have a project that is significant enough, we can involve other clubs, and that is one of the benefits of being part of a very large body of people. The turning point for me was attending a district conference in 2013, where the internationality of Rotary was highlighted. It was a truly inspirational experience. We're all volunteers, as those on the call who are already in the movement know. That's what defines Rotarians. There are lots of volunteering opportunities open to us in our communities. Many great projects, such as my favorite currently, which is Give Every Child a Future, where we are setting about immunizing 100,000 children across 9 Pacific Island countries against 3 life-threatening diseases. We've already heard from Dorothy about examples of mentoring in Rotary. In club, we have a couple of programs for members that you'll hear about shortly from Austin. I'm involved in one mentoring program at a community organization called AfriAusCare, where we mentor people who are seeking employment. And in that particular community, it's even more challenging than elsewhere. So we give of our experience in pointing people in the right direction and setting themselves up to be at their best for interviews. Another mentoring project we're running at the moment is with the City of Melbourne, working with international students, polishing.
I think your sound is very crackling.
Is it? Don't know what to do about that. Sorry about that. Let me just conclude then by saying that as much as mentoring is satisfying in a professional context, it is just as satisfying in Rotary, and there are many opportunities. Sorry about the sound. Back to you, Mary.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I'm not sure what happened there at the end. It got a bit crackly, but hopefully it'll come back. Thank you for that very inspiring presentation and for sharing with us your very personal story and how you got to be a mentor and how you got to be a Rotarian. So thank you very much, Robert. And don't forget again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and they'll all be answered at the end of the session. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Austin Burley. Austin joined Rotary Melbourne in 1999. He served as president in 2011-12 and is currently involved in the Membership Review Committee and Membership Engagement Committee. He's also involved in the evening meeting program and the donations in kind store. Austin is also a mentor in Rotary Melbourne's new mentoring program. He has served on the District Foundation, Vocational Community Service Committees, and was an assistant governor from 2013 to 2015. Austin has a background in banking, having spent 40 years at the National Australia Bank before he retired. So now, Austin, I'll hand over to you. You have to unmute. We need to unmute Austin.
Okay, how's that? Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Mary. It's a long history, isn't it? So, Shanti, could you just take down the first slide, please? Okay, I just wanted to kick off by saying I've always enjoyed being part of the development of people, and with so many years in business like that, I had many opportunities. Also, I was a beneficiary of people who took an interest in the development, and it does make a big difference if you have that sort of guidance. One of the most challenging aspects of joining Rotary is getting to understand the features and benefits of the organisation, both in Rotary Melbourne and beyond. And in this session, I'll be explaining the club's initiative of mentoring new members and some not so new members, which I believe provides the most effective way of developing and involving the members. As you'll see on the slide, there is a summary of 2 programs that we have in the club. The key 6-month mentoring program for new members involves club mentors with the appropriate experience who have gone through a training program. There are guidance manuals, both for mentors and mentees in this program. And the program includes reporting and feedback requirements, which assist with the efficacy of the program and the development of the member. And also the I guess the suitability of the arrangement between the 2 people. The less structured buddy program is to assist members who feel they would benefit from more time to increase their engagement, or for existing members who need this assistance to re-engage with the club. The mentors and mentees are matched by each completing a mentoring program matching form to ensure both are as compatible as possible. And these forms include things like their interests, their work experience, their availability, and that sort of background. So if we could move on to the second slide now, please, Shanti. So what's the purpose of these programs? Well, the aim overall is to assist engagement and integration of the new member by identifying preferred projects, activities and events of interest which might suit them best for using their skills and experience, or where they may have a particular interest. Thus, by handling it this way, it ensures they find a clear pathway to engage with existing members, the activities and events, and possibly programs at the higher level, at district, national or international level, and as quickly as possible. This involves, or in summary, I suppose I should say, that they feel as though they are part of and engaged in the club at a level that meets their current life, which includes their family, their work commitments, and other involvements that they may have. These programs involve the regular communication between the mentor and mentee by any means, phone, emails, face-to-face, whatever. And with the pandemic situation that we've had in the last 10 months, I mean, Zoom and probably Skype, etc. So many ways of having communication. Shall we move on, please, Shanti, to the third, the benefits. Now, what are the benefits? Well, there's a benefit to the mentee and there's a benefit to the club. The mentee gains knowledge and information about Rotary more broadly and the operation of Rotary Melbourne specifically from the mentor's experience. They learn specific knowledge that will be relevant to their involvement. And they have a trusted ear with which to share any frustrations or challenges, as well as successes while they're navigating the complexity of the club. The club itself utilises the skills and knowledge of the existing members to assist new members, and also identifies skills and knowledge that the new member can bring to the club. It improves the retention of members because they are engaged and they are involved. So they're more likely to be involved in the club and be retained as members, which we would like to have, because ultimately, at the end of the day, we are developing people in our succession planning. It creates a mentoring culture in the club as well. So overall, this is a coordinated program to learning and participation with a designated support. It accelerates the opportunity for the involvement, and it gives greater involvement with members to meet new members and get to know them and become engaged early in their time in the club. So, in summary, that's it. How much time have I got, Mary? Have I got a chance to give an example?
You actually have about 2 to 3 minutes left, Austin.
Now, that's unusual, isn't it, Mary?
Very unusual, but there you go.
Oh, dear. Yes, in my experience, there was a new member in the club who was a senior professional person, and they had limited time really to spend. But this particular person was very interested in being involved, and he is a very personable person as well. So interpersonally, it was a relatively easy time, and I really enjoyed that involvement, but probably more than he did. But when he actually got himself involved, he was a self-starter, and he searched around. I provided the introduction to the people in the areas which he was expressing interest, and he really jumped in and got involved. And in fact, was seen as potential leadership in the club, and he was actually to take up a directorship on the board, but regretfully needed to resign before that took place, which was very unfortunate for him and very unfortunate for our club. But that's one example. Another was had a new member that really had a project direction, but was having difficulty in how to put together a proposal for a start, but then what was the processes. So we went through quite a lead in there with program development and project issues, and putting together a program to put to the board. And when we'd sort of worked at that level, we went to the committee that was involved in that particular matter. And so once again, a bit more tweaking and off to the board, and eventually it was approved. So that was through our think tank, which is a part of the club where new ideas are put up for discussion, and other members in the club relevant to maybe the ideas area listen, provide input, etc., to develop something that would suit the club. So that's two examples that I've been involved in, and very, very interesting to be involved in, but also very satisfying when you can get through to the conclusion. So thank you, Mary. Back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Austin. And that was a great overview of the Rotary Melbourne New Mentors Mentoring and Buddy Program. So well done, that was excellent. Thank you very much. And also for sharing your experiences as a mentor at the end, which is always very insightful.
Thank you.
So now it's my great pleasure to introduce our final speaker for today. And our final speaker is Carolyn Balla. And Carolyn is a very new member of Rotary, and she joined Rotary Melbourne in September this year. She joined Rotary to make a positive contribution to the community by participating in the life-changing work accomplished through the collective efforts of Rotary members. As part of the new member program, Carolyn was matched with an existing Rotarian as her mentor, as Austin just explained. And this is an experience she will tell us more about in her presentation, as well as talking about broader mentoring experiences that she also has. Carolyn is the Director, Accommodation Services at La Trobe University, which includes directing a multi-campus tertiary accommodation, conferencing and catering operation. She also has a high-level stakeholder contract management responsibilities. So over to you, Caroline, as our final speaker for today.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be joining the discussion today with fellow Rotarians, Dorothy, Austin, Robert and Mary. And thanks very much, Mary, for the warm welcome and Shanti for supporting today. I open this section of the presentation by offering a favourite quote, which is think left and think right and think low and think high are the things you can think up if you only try. That's the Dr. Seuss quote, and it very much supports my view not only on internal reflection, but on the value of developing and expanding ideas through connectedness with others. One of the amazing ways to do this is absolutely through mentoring. I'd like to share an insight into mentoring firstly, as I reflect on the journey this year as a new Rotarian, and secondly, to pause on the concept of mentoring in itself. So if we look at firstly, mentoring as a Rotary idea. My own journey with Rotary started early in 2020 when through a colleague I met Rebecca Tolstoy, a Rotarian and founder of Path of Hope. Rebecca is based in Perth and I'm in Victoria. Although there was distance, it was clear through our first encounter and through the sharing of ideas and connectivity that it would be seamless. It was just a natural transference of inspiration. To this point, there are definitely pillars of mentoring in the Rotarian relationship with Rebecca. Kevin Sheehan, another Rotarian, also spent time guiding me through the transition into Rotary. Likewise, Mary Barry has taken the time to interview and support me with Rotary, all mentoring champions. And if I look at the mentoring role in Melbourne, locally when I consider Rotary Melbourne and being a new member in the organisation, I feel fortunate to have been linked in with a formal mentor, Dorothy Gilmore, a woman who has extensive experience as a Rotarian and who brings support and guidance on the operations, groups and committees within Rotary. It's thanks to Dorothy that I have a mentor to chat with every fortnight, to share ideas and to grow a deeper awareness and understanding of mentoring within and beyond the Melbourne Club. She's also a wonderful person to engage with. Likewise, the warmth and welcoming from other Rotarians who have been somewhat of an informal mentoring network for me. To this extent, there's the capacity I feel to see mentoring as both singular, connected, and an interconnected concept, whether it be at a local, national, or even at a global level. Such a wonderful space to be in when thinking about the expansion of imagination and creation that can evolve from drawing upon the knowledge and experience that's embedded within a community such as Rotary. I'd also like to talk about the interchangeability of mentoring. And I'm extending this part of the presentation to touch briefly on mentoring as a flexible concept, in that at times I feel it is possible to be both mentor and mentee. To this, I think about the incredible learnings encountered in my own professional work engagements. As an example, in my current employment as a tertiary leader, there are times when I adopt a mentoring role with staff and students, which I guess by definition, this would seem I'm providing expertise, and maybe also by definition, the mentee who through eagerness to learn is supported in this partnership to share their thoughts and feelings and to develop. I surmise on this last point that in this dynamic, there can well be a participatory nature in the communication exchange. Hence, the role of mentor and mentee can shift and realign dependent on which roles they need to do in order to have that learning exchange. Ultimately, in a mentoring relationship and in that setting, I feel that you can be both guider and learner, something I can relate to. And I guess that's a fabulous notion of duality, which enables the transforming between the original formal roles. And then of course, there's the balance in mentoring. And on this point, I'm reminded a little bit of a quote that came about from Steven Spielberg, interestingly enough, who said on mentoring that there's a delicate balance of mentoring someone in that you're not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. I think there's a lot of truth in this remark. What a wonderful thing to be able to nurture and foster another as they reach their potential. A reciprocation that undoubtedly leads to personal growth. So I guess that's what I'd like to share with you all. I thank you so much for welcoming me into the club. I value the opportunity to speak today on the inspiring topic of mentoring and to share this with you collectively. I've really enjoyed listening to each of the speakers and the opportunity, as I said, to come together and be part of that Rotarian community. And I welcome any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Now, do we have any questions, Shanti? If not, I can start out with one and maybe ask our presenters what was their most memorable mentoring moment. If they have a memorable moment they'd like to share with us. Robert, Dorothy, Austin, any memorable moments that you want to share? Robert, you've unmuted.
Miriam, I might talk briefly about a mentoring moment with one of my clients. I obviously won't give away any identification, but this particular gentleman was in a pretty senior role in a resources company and had an engineering background. And if anyone on the call knows how engineers operate, they have to have everything proved to the last point before they'll actually proceed. And this particular gentleman had a couple of blind spots in his relationship with his team. And when he realized that there were different ways of approaching relationships with his group, he had what we call an aha moment and turned away from being an engineer needing everything to be defined to somebody who could see in practice how he could improve his relationships, not just with his team, but also with his compatriots. So that's just a small example of how, after a lot of hard work and discussing between mentor and mentee, it is possible for the mentee to realize that there are different ways of doing things that can actually be advantageous for them.
Great. Thank you very much, Robert. Yes, a very interesting story. Austin, you've unmuted.
Well, I think I'm still unmuted from when I spoke. I've been very quiet.
Okay, so Carolyn, Dorothy, do you have any comments on memorable moments?
I'm happy to share one with that I have with Dorothy, and that was right at the beginning. As I entered into the Rotary Club, Dorothy was online texting me, happy to meet regularly, and I just wanted to say, as a new member, that experience of transition into a club is absolutely makes a huge difference. So I think what the club is doing and the capacity to really grow new membership and to see those skills come out is testament to the members that are already in the club. So thank you to Dorothy in particular for that, because I truly appreciate the time that's given up from each of you to help that transition process.
Oh, thank you very much, Carolyn. And I think we do have some further questions coming in. We might go to some other questions and then come back again. Shanti, are there other questions in the chat box?
We do have a question from our President Miriam. Miriam, can I spotlight you, and would you like to ask your question directly to our speaker, please?
Look, it was just a question about, as mentors, do you get as much out of the relationship as the mentees? And could you perhaps share some of your learnings as mentors?
Right, Dorothy, you want to answer that one?
Thank you, Marion, for that question. Look, you're never too old to learn. I think for me, in both the Victoria Police and the Ambulance Victoria, it was just astounding. It just opened the whole mentoring experience, just opened my eyes to the challenges that both agencies actually are challenged and have to face on a daily basis. Also, I think seeing the camaraderie in Ambulance Victoria, you know, visiting the base, the rural base, and you know, that they all meet for coffee whenever they can between you know, jobs. So, you know, they just walk in, I've forgotten the name of the place in Echuca, and they just wander in and immediately they're given the coffee of their choice in a paper cup in case they have to depart in a hurry. But it's just the support for each other in especially in Ambulance Victoria and the care. It was outstanding. So I have the greatest of respect for them. Just to answer that other question, Mary, about what maybe a story, just very briefly, I probably shouldn't be fessing up to this one, but when I left the base, the rural base, and drove home, I thought I really should have left something on the table, because they all bring in cakes and biscuits and slices and stuff and share. And so I rang this chocolate place in this rural town where they hand make chocolates, and I ordered this big box to be delivered, to be put on the table. Unfortunately, I didn't realize they're all filled with alcohol, and some of the paramedics were a little concerned that I was sending them back out on the road after eating half a dozen chocolates with alcohol. I won't say what rural town this is, by the way, but I thought, typical me, I have to do something wrong. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Dorothy, for fessing up to that one. Now, Austin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, yes, I thought it might be interesting to share an experience overall, and that is with one of the new members. The new member was an existing Rotarian, or is it? Yeah, it was, and still is, an existing Rotarian. What I found out is this particular Rotarian knew a lot more than I did about certain aspects of Rotary. So it was almost a reverse learning situation there as part of this mentoring, which is still continuing. So I found that quite delightful, because it meant that our interactions could be far more focused, if I could put it that way, in terms of her contribution to the club, and it just made a different base. One of the reasons that she's been so anxious about, not anxious in terms of anxiety, but was keen, I suppose is a better word, for being part of the mentoring program, is she was a bit overwhelmed by the structure, and she said, I really need someone to be able to hold my hand so I can work myself through the structure of Rotary Melbourne, because if you look at the organisational chart, it's enough to make you glaze over, I think, at your first glance. So I thought I'd just share that one.
Thank you, Austin. Now, we do have a question from Nesta. Can we go to Nesta to ask her question, Shanti?
Hello, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I was interested in the issue of interchangeability and wondered whether as a club you're doing any work with the Rotaractors.
Right, who wants to answer that question? Robert.
Yeah, he's the best man.
Yeah, we do have a relationship, Nesta, with one of the two Rotaractor clubs in Melbourne. There is a city club, and we have a memorandum of understanding with them. It's a pretty small group, but we have done a couple of small projects with them in the last couple of years, and I hope that relationship will continue for quite a long time. But the number of Rotaractor clubs around Australia is surprisingly few, and it's probably something that we need to give some more time and attention to.
Great, thank you very much, Robert. And we have a question from Margaret. Margaret, would you like to pose your question? Oh, Margaret, you're on mute. And I can't see you. Okay,
I've got my...
There you go. Sorry. Go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, good. Thank you. I would be interested to know if...
Sorry, Margaret, your sound is really poor. Would you like me to ask the question for you?
I'm just adjusting better.
Yeah, that's a bit better. Yes, go ahead.
Interested in knowing if mentoring program that Dorothy...
I'm sorry, you're
in relation to road trauma, grief and loss.
So you're going in now. Sorry, Margaret, you're fading. So I'll put the question you've put into the chat box to Dorothy, because we can't hear you very well. You keep breaking up. So if you can go on mute again, I'll put the question. Sorry about that, but we just can't hear you. So Dorothy, the question is, have you supported police and or ambulance with trauma, grief and loss as part of the Rotary mentoring program?
Thank you for that question, Margaret. No, I haven't, because I've actually, I don't like to use the word retired, but now I'm in Rotary and just so active, I guess. I haven't, I've actually not working professionally, so I don't have registration now to be able to practice. But I did work with Victoria Police, Ambulance Victoria, the tramways, the trains, in the area of trauma, loss and grief in my practice. Very sobering. I think what it has allowed to do, I haven't forgotten the issues. I haven't forgotten the triggers and what I may be faced with as a mentor in Victoria Police and Ambulance Victoria. So I have a very good understanding of the ways that certain people can become traumatized very quickly, and it isn't recognized. So I have still got the ability to recognize it and to find a referral if need be for that person. Does that answer your question?
Yes, in part. My sound is still bad, isn't it?
No, we can't hear you. I'm sorry, Margaret. We can only get about every 3 or 4 words. Maybe if you put her in the chat box, I can read it out. If you want to stick it in the chat box.
I'd be very happy to answer it, Margaret.
Here I go.
Okay, while you're doing that, we've got a question from our own host, Shanti. Shanti, you have a question around academics.
Yes.
You want to put your question?
Yes, thank you, Mary. This question is to Cass. Cass, what sort of formal academic input has formed part of your preparation for being a mentor?
Sorry, I missed the first half of that, Shanti. Could you repeat the question for me, please?
I understand in your professions, you also this question is what formal academic input has formed part of your preparation being a mentor?
So if I heard the question correctly, I think it dropped out a little bit there for me, but the question is what sort of academic preparation has informed my role as a mentee in the club, is that correct?
Yes, as a mentee.
Absolutely. So I sort of, and maybe this is a bit more broadly in responding to that question, but I feel very closely that the role of mentor and mentee can shift. So throughout my own career and my own journey as a leader, in the tertiary sector and also in Rotary. Sometimes I feel like I'm a mentor, other times I feel like I'm a mentee, even in the same relationship, because you can certainly learn through that, from that partnership, and the opportunity to grow and develop can come in many different forms. So whether that's through the connectedness that you have, and I have some mentee students that I help in terms of that growth, right through to being a mentee myself with other senior leaders. So look, I think academically, in terms of preparation for today, it's about understanding those nuances and seeing where you can go up and down in a different connectivity relationship, and there's always something to learn.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. And just looking at the time, we're coming towards the end of our session. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of our speakers for their wonderful presentations. Thank President Marion for her introduction, and of course our host Shanti for all the work that she's put into getting us here today. So thank you very much to all of you. And of course, a big thank you to all our participants and attendees. I hope you all very much enjoyed the session today, and that you hopefully got something from it that you can take away. And with your permission, Shanti would like to contact you over the next week or so for any feedback you may have. So if that's okay, she'll make contact. I'd also like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the Rotary Club of Melbourne. And we certainly hope to see you all around in 2021 at some more of these sessions, or some of our lunch meetings, or whatever else we are doing in 2021. And before we go, we're going to close with a very short video. So I hope you can all stay for another minute or so while Shanti plays the final video. And after that, goodbye everybody, and we will see you hopefully 2021. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.